by our desires and our needs and our fears and our concerns, and we can be driven by those so that they can dominate our lives. And if they dominate our lives, then that means that we will attract more of them to us.
That's right.
Because of the fact that they become the predominant vision that we have for what life is. As long as we believe that life is awful, then we're going to live in an awful life.
Yes.
And so what happens is we can release ourselves from that by raising our vibration, and we raise our vibration by doing the things that are loving and compassionate and fun. We just have a wonderful life and a life that's full of bliss. Joseph Campbell said, "Follow your bliss." So that's what we need to do. And if we follow our bliss, and our bliss becomes more and more loving and compassionate, we become more blissful when we're becoming loving and compassionate. We raise our vibrations, and our lives can be satisfying, comfortable, and just wonderful, just blissful. But we do that ourselves. We're making the choices. So we are living on this dream together, this plane of reality, and we then are making the choices that create this. All of us together are creating it because we're having our individual experiences, and they match what the whole experience is for the big C consciousness. And so we're creating that, but we're also creating our own individual consciousness, our own individual lives every moment of the day. So we can go through the day and we can be blissful and happy and not have concerns, or we can go through the day and be fearful and feel lethargic and just having a difficult time every day, all day. That's the choice we make.
So more specifically, consciousness is a kind of energy, infinitely creative energy. And like all energy, it vibrates. And think about music. You can have a very low vibration or a very high vibration. Well, with energy, the lower the vibration is, the more fear-based and negative it is. And that includes all the negative emotions, hatred, anger, all of the negative things. What we see going on in politics right now is a manifestation of profound negative consciousness energy. And as you can see, it feeds on itself. I'm about to write a blog post about this, but it feeds on itself. At the other end of that vibratory range is perfect love. Mikey Morgan said that God is the unity of perfect. He said God is the unity of love in all that exists. Unity of pure love. I used to have this memorized. God is the unity of pure love in all that exists. He's absolutely right. So you can make yourself vibrate at a level that's godlike. All you have to do is only love. If that's all you ever do, then that's where you are. And so what Craig is really saying is, you are so creative, you can create your own life. But please, don't let that life get created by the negative feelings that all of us have until we start really working on ourselves. You want to be your best self. You have the power to do that.
Yeah, unfortunately, what's happening is that because of the models that we have, such as you say, the politicians, all of the models have a very negative energy, and so that influences us. It influences humanity as a whole because of that big C consciousness is developed by these negative energies. But it also influences our outlook on life. So we look at life as being negative, or we look at it as people as manipulating each other, not having concern and love for each other. And they are a terrible, terrible model for us. We're stuck with them. We have no choice. But the fact is that they are creating great difficulties for humanity as a result of what they're doing.
One of the things that we're going to talk about in the next segment is something very important, which is that the consciousness vibration of this planet is apparently at such a low point that unless we can turn things around, it's very quickly going to get even a lot worse than it is now. So for the past century or more, the highest vibration entities have been working to raise the planet's consciousness. Many people now are working for them, basically our avatars. Craig and I are two of them, but there are many people doing this to try to help people understand that our lives are eternal and what we do here counts, but the only thing that counts is learning perfect love. But it's more important than just your own development. If that were all it were, then I would be happy to give my life to helping you develop spiritually. But this is about whether or not the planet will survive and whether or not humanity will survive. That's the stakes. So what we're going to do is talk about how each of us can become what amounts to a soldier in the army of perfect love. It's not hard. Actually, that's a terrible metaphor, isn't it, Craig? I mean, this is a peace movement, if ever there was one. Now, one of the things that I keep telling people is that Jesus is right. Christianity is totally wrong and bogus. Jesus is right. Let's talk about some of the things Jesus says in the Gospels about this. He says, the kingdom of God is not coming with signs to be observed, nor will they say, oh, there it is, here it is. For behold, the kingdom of God is within you. Luke 17:20-21. Exactly right. You are part of that kingdom of God. He also said God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and in truth. John 4:24. Now, that turned into, there must be three gods. Well, the reason that they did this in 325 in the Council of Nicaea is that it was a fashion then for there to be triune gods. So they gave us one. God is one. God is spirit. And that spirit is what we experience as consciousness, and it's the only thing that exists. Jesus said, it is the spirit who gives life. The flesh profits nothing. The words that I have spoken to you are spirit, and they are life. John 6:63. Oh my goodness. Jesus had it going on, didn't he? You can call him Yeshua, you can call him Jesus, but someone came to earth 2,000 years ago who told us things we're only figuring out now. He also told us how powerful our minds are. Listen to this. Have faith in God. Truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be taken up and cast into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says is going to happen, his mind, in other words, is totally going to do it, it will be granted to him. He's not saying God will do it. He's saying your mind is going to do it. Therefore I say to you, all things for which you pray and ask, believe you have received them, and they will be yours. Mark 11:22-24. Everything Jesus said, genuinely said, that wasn't added later by councils, is absolutely right. And he had a lot to say about the power of our minds. So let's talk about, though, the negative energy. I mean, we all feel it. Everybody can feel that the world is much more negative if you're older like us. Everyone can feel how much more negative the whole energy and vibration of this planet has become in recent years. So talk about that, Craig. What is it now that's going on that's going to change that?
Yeah, the negative energies now are having an effect upon humankind, upon the planet, actually the planet itself, and us as individuals. So we're actually becoming more negative because of the fact that there's so much negative energy affecting us. And the result of that is, because there is so much negative energy, then we're living negative lives. We're attracting negative energy to ourselves, and we're perpetuating that. And we'll continue to do that until we grow out of it. We have to grow as individuals, mentally, psychologically. We have to grow out of that kind of negative energy. And we do that by changing our lives moment to moment. We go through our lives and we try to fill our lives with loving, wonderful, blissful things. And we have wonderful, blissful people around us. And in that way, then we raise our energy, and we will become calmer, more loving, more compassionate, and live more blissful lives. But we make that choice every day, and what is that we feed ourselves. We feed ourselves the things that are loving and compassionate and blissful and beautiful, or we fill ourselves with the things that are negative and harmful and cruel. And we make that choice from moment to moment every day. So we can change our lives just by changing that. We need to go inside ourselves. People need to spend time in meditation. And that just means going inside and listening to the voice. Because we have people on the other side. We have guides, helpers, other people who want to help us. They are intent upon helping humankind raise its vibration. They're working very diligently on the other side. There are teams of people working on the other side at various levels and are trying to help humankind to raise itself out of this terrible mire that we find ourselves in. And all we have to do is, as individuals, listen to that, follow that, and become part of the movement, become part of that impulse to raise vibrations, raise humanity's consciousness. And we can do that. We each one are able to communicate with these higher powers. And people like Hans Otto Koenig, who is communicating with the higher levels, the fifth and sixth levels, he is finding out from them that they are saying that there will be a change in consciousness. The change in consciousness is coming. And it is coming at a molecular vibrational level, And we then are going to be part of that. We're watching that happen. That's why it's so exciting now. And we're coming to these realizations because of that. So there is a change in consciousness happening. We can become part of the consciousness. We do it as individuals, and we do it by raising our vibration, by being loving, compassionate, random acts of kindness for people, looking for opportunities to be with people who are loving and kind, and avoiding people who are not. And turning off the television if you turn on and you get these negative impulses from the politicians or from video games or from the movies that are violent, they all drag us down. They drag humanity down. And if we do that every day, then we will change ourselves, and in the process, we will change humanity.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things we're learning as we look back, because both Craig and I kind of started out trying to understand the afterlife, what seems to have happened is the early part of probably about 200 years ago, they figured out that if they allowed us to know a little bit more about the fact that life is in fact eternal, we would still consider this to be a useful school. We still would take it seriously, but we wouldn't be so reckless about thinking that what we do here doesn't matter. So they began trying in all these different ways to teach us that our lives are eternal. And what we're finding now is that science is the biggest obstacle, because science convinces people that none of this wonderful evidence is real. So in the end, I think you agree with me, Craig, that the only way we're going to really have this knowledge that human life is eternal, which is going to change everything, by the way, when everyone or most people know that you never die, the only way that can dawn on the world is if we humiliate scientists to the point of feeling they have to study it. And so we have to make it incontrovertibly true in everyone's mind, and no one then will pay attention to scientists anymore. Talk about that. Talk about the wonderful things being done now to really make this truth dawn on Earth.
Yeah, and Max Planck also said this about that. He said that we're going to have a difficult time convincing the old bulls that are in the academic institutions that they're going to have to die out. And it's going to be the younger ones who come up who are going to understand this and change as a result of it. But we're seeing the change happen. We're seeing the change happen because the scientists are now engaging in the study of consciousness. They were forced into it by what the quantum physicists discovered in the early part of the 20th century. So they were forced into it. Some are still stubbornly not wishing to realize that it's true. Einstein himself, till his dying day, didn't understand or believe in quantum consciousness.
He
hated it. Yeah, he just didn't. He said God does not play dice.
Yeah.
The things couldn't be that random. But what has happened is that since that time, science has had to confront the fact that consciousness affects reality. That's a central part of quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics can't exist without consciousness being central to the phenomena that we're experiencing in the physical realm. So that if you have science, if you have matter, if you have energy, then it must engage in, it must involve consciousness. That means that consciousness, matter, and energy then are fundamental. And actually, the fundamental part of that is consciousness that creates what we perceive as matter and energy. So what we're getting experiences in this dream that we're dreaming together. We're having the experiences, and the experiences are real. The matter is real. The energy is real, but it's real as part of what we are intentionally creating. So we're the ones who are doing this, and we can make this into the wonderful life that it could be. Science then is coming around to realizing that the consciousness does have an impact on reality, and the more that happens, the more they're confronted. It's like they are falling off. You've got this huge crowd of scientists who are bunched together, who have circled the wagons against what's coming on them as an onslaught of truth. And so you're watching them gradually walk away from that. So the ones on the perimeter are walking away from it and coming to realize what we know to be true now. And the more that happens, you're going to have this little gathering of the scientists who are still stubbornly not believing that consciousness has an effect on reality, and eventually then they would realize that consciousness is the basis of reality, and then they will fall away. And then within a century, then all of this will be in the textbooks. Children will be in school learning about these things. They will understand that consciousness is the basis of reality, and it's just going to be accepted as a conclusion that everybody always should have known, and they'll look back upon this time as being the time of ignorance, like it was before Galileo. Yeah, before Galileo, and when the people believed that the Earth was the center of the universe, and we say, oh, how ignorant they were, and that's what people are going to look back